Hello everyone. In today's lecture, we are going to understand a very important stage of filmmaking called post-production stage. In previous lecture, I have already covered the development stage, pre-production stage, and the production stage. If you want to understand today's topic more clearly, I recommended you that you first watch those lectures. The stage of filmmaking follow chronological process and moving step by step from planning to execution. So you have to must watch that previous video lectures which I made. So watching the earlier lecture will help you to understand that how an entire filmmaking process work. Now we are moving to the post production stage. First, I will define what post production stage means. Then, we will discuss the five major areas of the post production by one. So, these are the editing, sound design, visual effects and graphics, color correction and gradings, titles, credits, and the final outputs. By the end of this lecture, you will understand how raw footages recorded during the shooting is transformed into a complete and finished film ready for the audience to watch on the theaters. So we can define post-production stage as of filmmaking that takes place after the shooting, means production is completed. It involves editing and refining the recorded footages and audio to create the final versions of the film. In the stage, filmmaker organize the raw material recorded during the production stage, means actual shooting, and then transform into a complete cinematic work through the process of such as editing, the sound design, visual effects, graphics, and color corrections, and the final titles and credits are added during that post production stage. So, in simple word, we can define that post-production is the process of turning a raw footages into a finished film that audience have to watch. Now, let's look at the first major area of the post-production, which is editing. Editing is one of the most important process of filmmaking because it is the stage where recorded shots are selected, it is arranged and then combined to create the final narrative of the film. So many filmmaker say something very interesting about the editing. They say a film is not made on the set. It is made on the editing table. So what does it mean? That it means that although shooting is very important in the filmmaking, but the real storytelling of the film often happen during the editing. Editing is both as an art and as a technical process. So, in simple term, editing means selecting, arranging, and joining the different shots together to create a meaningful sequence. During the shooting, directors usually record many different takes at the same scene. They may shoot the same actions from the different angle or repeat it several times. So after the shooting is finished, all these footages go to the editor. The editor job is to carefully decide which shot will be take or used, how long that shot should stay on the screen, and what shot should came to the next. Through these decisions, the editor shapes how the audience experience the story. So, in simple words, editing controls how the story is presented to the audience. Editing also shapes four very important aspects of the film. These are the first is the time. Editing can shorten or extend the time. For example, a journey that takes place several days in the story can shown in just few seconds through the editing. The second one is a space. Editing can connect different locations smoothly, making it appears as if an action happening continuously at the same time. Third is an emotion. Emotions strongly affect the emotional impact of the scene. Fast cut can create the excitement, tension, while the slower editing can create the sadness or reflection. And the fourth one is the story. The order in which shot appears determine how audience understand the narrative. So we can say clearly say that shooting provide the raw material, but editing creates the meaning. And without the editing, a film world simply be a collections of disconnected shots, not a coherent story. Now, there are different types of editing. Editor used different editing style depending on the storytelling style and purpose of the film. Let's look at the three important types of the editing. Editing, the first one is the continuity editing. The continuity editing is one of the most common editing style used in the mainstream cinema. The main goal of continuity editing is to make the film look smooth, natural, and easy to flow. In this style, the cuts are usually invisible, which means the audience does not notice the transition from one shot to another. In this style, the cuts everything happens to a flow of logically and realistically, maintaining the sense of continuous time and space. For example, imagine a scene where a character opens a door in a one shot and in the next shot the character enters the room. The action continues smoothly. So the audience feel that the moment is natural and uninterrupted, though these are totally different shots. So continued editing help us maintain the spectacle consistency, the sense of the place, and the temporal consistency, the sense of a time, which allow the audience to follow the story easily without any confusions. The next editing type is a montage editing. Montage editing is very different from the continuity editing. The word montage means joining the different shots together to create a new meaning. In montage editing, the meaning is not created by a single shot. Instead, it is created through the combinations of the several shots placed together in a sequence. So, montage is often used to compress the time or to show many events happening over a long period of time in a short durations on screen. For example, consider a training sequence in the sports films. So instead of showing every moment of training in a real time, the film may show the series of shots connected, such as running, weightlifting, practicing, sweating during the hard training, and finally winning a match. So when these shots are edited together, they quickly shows the character efforts, progress, and the improvement. We often see montage sequence in films when a character is preparing for its fight, falling in love, or working hard to achieve his goal, or going through the personal growth or the transformation. So, montage editing helps us filmmaker to show long process or emotional development in a short or powerful sequence. Now, we are moving to the third one, which is the parallel or cross-cutting editing type. So it is also called the cross-cutting. Parallel editing is used to show two or more actions happening at the same time but in a different place. In this technique, the editor cuts back and forth between the two scenes, moving from one actions to another. This method is often used to create the suspense, the tension, and excitement in the film. For example, imagining a situations where a hero is running to stop a bomb and at the same time a villain is preparing to detonate it. The film keeps cutting between those two actions. A hero is running and villain preparing for the bomb. Though these are two different shots, but it's seen in a sequence or the parallel movement. As the scene alternate, the audience begin to feel nervous and excited, wondering whether the hero will arrive at the time or not. So because of this, parallel editing help us increase the intensity and keep the audience engaged. Now let's understand some common types of cuts used in the film editing. So, before we discuss the cuts, it's important to understand the difference between a shot and a scene. In filmmaking, a shot is a single continuous recording captured by the camera without interruptions. Usually, a shot may last around 10 to 15 seconds, although it can sometimes shorter or longer depending on the director's style. And on the other hand, a scene is a complete unit of action that takes place in a particular locations and the time of the story. A scene is usually made up of multiple shots edited together and create 1 or 2 minutes or even longer than that. So we can simply say it, a shot is a one continuous camera recording and a scene is a sequence made from the multiple shots that show as a part of the story. Understanding this difference help us to see how cuts connect shot together to form a scene and create a flow of the film. Now let's look at some common types of the cuts in the editing. Cuts are the basic transitions that connect one shot to another, helping the film from move smoothly from one moment to the next. The first one is the hard cut. A hard cut is the simplest and most commonly used transitions in the filmmaking. It is a direct cut from the one shot to the next shot without any visual effects or the transitions. Usually we see that the shots are moved from one shot to another to show the transitions, but hard cut did not have any visual effects or transitions. It is directly shifted to the another shot. That is why it is called the hard cut. So most films are mainly constructed using the hard cuts, and because of this keep the storytelling the clear and the straightforward. The next cut is the J cut. Now in a J cut, the sound of the next scene begin before the visual changes happen. What it means that the sound of the next scene begin before the visual changes happen. So this means the audience start hearing the audio of the next scene while still seeing the previous shot on the screen. These techniques help us create a smooth and natural transitions between the scenes. The next key or the type is the L cut. L cut works in an opposite way of the J cut. In this case, the picture changes the next scene, but the sound from the previous scene continues for the few seconds. This technique is often used in the conversations and dramatic scenes because it makes the transition feel more natural and realistic. Next, a cut is the jump cut. A jump cut is intentionally break the normal continuity of a time. It suddenly jumps forward in a time within the same shot, creating a noticeable change. Jump cuts are often used to show time passing quickly to create a distinct stylistic effect. They are commonly seen in the modern films like documentaries and the online video content. Now, next thing that we are going to understand these stages of editing. Editing itself also happening in a different stages. Editor usually follow the step by step process to gradually shape the film. And we have to understand that there are the four main stages of the editing, which are that you are seeing in the screen that these are the assembly cut, the rough cut, the fine cut and a picture lock. The first one is the assembly cut. The assembly cut is the first version of the film. In this stage, all the recorded footages are placed in the same order as a script. The purpose is simply to see how the entire film look like. The scenes are arranged in together. So at this stage the film is usually very long and rough and nothing has to be refined yet. The assembly stage is just assemble the all raw footages in the sequence. The second stage is the rough cut. The rough cut here, the editor begin removing the unnecessary shots and mistakes that start shaping the film more clearly. The basic structure, rhythm and the flow of the story begin to appear but is still not final versions. So in assembly cut, we just arrange all the raw footages in the sequence. In the rough cut, we remove the mistakes or some unnecessary shots to get the flow or the rhythm of the film. And the next cut is the fine cut. After the rough cut, the fine cut in the stage, the editor carefully refined the film. Shots are trimmed more precisely and pacing the scenes is improved. So the editor focused on strengthening the emotional impact of the storytelling. This stage mainly about polishing the film so that it flows smoothly. So the fine cut means to trim the all cuts and all shots into a precisely way to do not show the difference between the one shot to another or the transition between the one shot to another. It look like very smooth and precise. So this is the fine cut, and the last and the final stage is called the picture lock. So picture lock means the visual editing of the film is completely finished and no more changes will be made in this image. At this point, other department can safely begin to work, such as the sound department, the color grading and visual effects. So this stage is important because this department depends on the final versions or final visuals and the sequence of the film. So these are the all different stages of the editing. We define that assembly stage, rough cut, fine cut and the picture lock. Now we can see that the editing is very essential and for the post production stage. In this sections we have covered the different aspects of the editing, including the different types of editing like the parallel editing, montage editing and the continuity editing. We discussed the common cuts used in the editing, which are the hard cut, J cut, L cut and the jump cut, and we see the different stages of the editing process, which is the assembly cut, the rough cut, the fine cut and the picture locks. So all this element help transform the raw footages recorded during the production into the structure and meaningful film. Now let's move to the next important area in the post production, which is sound editing or the sound design. Now sound is very powerful element in the cinema. It play a major role in shaping how audience experience the film. Sound design is a very powerful element in the cinema. It refer sound design, it refer to the process of creating and organizing the audio world of the film. In most film, sound is built using the four main layers. These layers are this dialogue, the foley, SFX means special effects, and the music. Now we have just go through each layer one by one. The first one is the dialogue. The first and most important sound layer is dialogue. Dialogue carries the story and the character interactions. The dialogues are it's all about the interaction between the different characters or the two characters. Through the dialogue, the audience understand what the character are thinking, what they feeling, and how they communicating with each other. Dialogue can be recorded in a different ways. The dialogues first is dialogue are recorded directly on the set while the actors are performing during the filming. When the production stage is going on and the camera is rolling, that time the dialogue are directly recorded in the production stage. But in some cases that the dialogue may face some interface interactions, or the dialogue may be vague, or sometimes it is interrupted by the noises. So these dialogues later recorded in the studio, and it is called as the ADR, automated dialogue replacement. So the actors re-recorded their lines to improve the sound quality, and in post-production stage, using the ADR, the dialogues are recorded and added in the editing to the dialogue. The next is the voice-over narrations, where voice is heard over the images to explain the commitment of the story or the comment on the story, basically. So These are the different types of dialogues which is directly shot on the production stage, the dialogue which is replaced by the ADR, and the voice over narrations happen over the story. Now dialogue is essential because it helps the audience to follow the narrative and connect with the audience and the character. Now the second key aspect in the sound design or the layer of the sound design is the foley. Once the dialogue is completed, the next element or the layer is the foley. Foley is the process of creating the everyday sounds in a studio and adding them into the film during the post productions. So these sound carefully recorded so that they match the actions we see on the screen, making the scene feel more realistic and clear. The term Foley comes from the Jack Foley, a sound artist who developed this technique in early days of the filmmaking. So Foley artists creating or recreate many common sound that we normally hear in everyday life. For example, footstep when the characters walk, cloth rustling when the character moves, door opening or closing, objects being picked or placed on the table. So these are the common but very useful sounds which is recorded in the foley or created in the studios, and they are added in the film. So if a character walk into the room, the sound record during the filming may weak or unclear. A foley artist watches the scene in the studio and recorded footstep again so that they match the movement of the screen. So this process help the scene feel more realistic, natural, and believable to the audience. Now the second one is the third layer is the sound effect or the special sound effect or SFX. Sound effect is also called the SFX. These are the recorded or the artificially created sound added to the film to enhance the environment and the actions. Now, sound effect help us to create a realistic environment, add actions and intensity to the scenes, make the film more immersive or for the audience. Some common example of the sound effects include the rain and the wind, thunder, the traffic noise, the gunshot, the explosions, and the animal sound. So, if a scene shows storm, filmmaker adds such sound effect such as thunder and the storm wind and the rain. So this sound help the audience feel that the power of the storm and become the more involved in the scene. The next or the fourth layer is the music. So the last layer of the sound design is the music. Music play a vital role in the movie. It helps create the emotions, set the mood of a scene, and guide the audience feeling throughout the story. Music in film can take a different form, such as the original background score. When we watch a film, or a particular film has a different type of the film score which is originally recorded or the set by the film. Just like we see in the example of DDLJ, there is a particular guitarist tune that play when character is happy or he is in the romantic mood. So the original background scores, that music that is specially composed for the film by the music composer, it usually play the background of the scenes and to create the mood, emotions, and the atmosphere of the scenes or the shot. The second is the song performed within the film. Song that appear as a part of the story, sometimes sung by the character or played during the sequence like the romance, celebrations, or the montage. Different singers sing the song for the film, and it get popular by the popular by the singers. So the song played the vital role in the film and the movie. And the next one is the licensed music. So existing song or the music track used with the legal permissions. We can see that in the modern films, they film uses the previous songs which is sung by the other singers or the sung by or perform in the movie, used in the contemporary movies or the modern movies which are already exist, but these songs are used with an legal permissions. So filmmaker obtain the right to use these songs to create a particular mood or connect with the audience. So in this way, soft music can create the romantic or the emotional mood, while the fast and intense music can build the excitement or the tension. So in this way, the film helps strengthen the emotional impact of the story. So all these four layers of the dialogue, foley, sound effect and music together to create the sound design of the film. So in this lecture, we already covered the two important aspects in the post production, which is the editing and the sound design. And in the upcoming lectures, we are going to discuss the visual effects, the titles, and the color corrections and the grading. So, the next lecture, which is connected to the post production, is based on these three topics, remaining topics. So, to conclude this lecture, we discussed the we discussed define the what is post production. Post productions which happen after the production or the raw footages is refined in the post production stage. We look out the different aspect or the elements of the post productions, which is editing, sound designing, visual effects, color corrections and grading, and titles and graphics are added in the post productions. In this lecture we already discussed about the editing, which is one of the essential element in the post productions, and we look out the different types of the editing, which is the continuity editing, montage editing and the parallel editing. We already discussed the common types of the cuts like J cut, L cut, jump cut. We discussed the different stages of the editing, which is the rough cut, fine cut or the picture lock. And in the sound designing, we discussed the four layers of the sounds, which are the dialogues, foley, SFX and music. All these four layers are combined to create the one sound in the film. So I hope you understand that you understand the post production two key elements. In the further lecture we discuss the different element as well. So thank you for that.